Hello everyone. So in the previous videos, I talked about a few concepts of networking, and now let's continue our journey a little bit further. So in single player games, we have only one player, and detecting that player is easy. But in multiplayer games, we have multiple players, and to identify each player and save and load their progress, we need to be able to tell them apart and identify them correctly. This is why we can create an account for each player and assign them a unique ID, which we call it authentication. This is where a lot of new developers get confused. The question is, who is going to do the authentication and which method is going to be used for authentication? So to start, you need to answer a big question first. Who is going to do the authentication? Is it the same server that runs the game simulation, or is it another server that runs separately? In most cases, it is not wise to use the same server that runs the game simulation. So let's just ignore that and say we should, not must by the way, we should always use a separate server to do the authentication and another server to run the game simulation or data relay. So if you are familiar with services like Unity Netcode or Mirror Networking, those packages are only good to be used for game simulation and not the authentication and other related services that are dependent on authentication like friends, matchmaking, leaderboards, and others. So you can create your own authentication service, or you can use paid services like Unity Gaming Services, Photon, PlayFab, and I think Amazon also has something. Anyway, there is a lot of options that you can use. So let's visualize how it works. First, a client opens the game, and by the way, let's call the server that handles the authentication and other services the master server, and the server that runs the game simulation game server. So when the player opens the game, it will be connected to the master server. Then it will authenticate itself by either creating a new account or logging in to an already created account using any available method like username, password, Google, Steam, and other methods. Once authenticated, it will also get the IP and port of the game server and then connects to the game server. Now, game server validates the client with the master server, telling him, hey dude, a new client just connected to me. It has a token or single use password. So is he valid? Should I allow him to play the game? And the master server checks that. And if everything was fine, then the client can play the game. Otherwise, it will be kicked out. Also, the game server can get the player data from the master server, like its score, its equipment, its credits, everything. And this is basically how each player joins, and they can all maintain their data and progress. Now let's talk about different types of game servers. So we have two types of game servers. The first is persistent world, or also we know them as MMO servers, massively multiplayer online servers. And the second type is room-based or session-based server. So persistent server, as the name suggests, is online 24/7. It's always on, and players can join them anytime and leave anytime while their progress is saved. For example, a game like DayZ has a persistent server. For example, let's say in a game we have two different servers. One of them is an island world and the other one is a snowy mountain. First, players connect to the master server, then master server is going to give them a list of available game servers to join, and after players get authenticated, they can join any of these servers. And if they build a house in one of these servers and then leave the server and come back a few days later, the house is still there, assuming other players don't destroy it first. Now, let's talk about the session-based servers. So in this type, game servers are created and destroyed for each match. For example, a game like Dota 2, when a few players want to play the game together, they should either join a room or use matchmaking to be paired with other players. So once the teams are settled, by the order of the master server, a new game server will be started. The IP and port of that game server will be given to the players and they join the game server. And after they played the game, when the match is over, game server informs the master server about the match results and the scores. And once they are done, the game server is just gonna be closed. This way, no matter how many players want to play the game, the master server is going to match them by conditions and team size that you have determined, and then orders a game server instance to be created for them so they could play the game together. So that's the two types of servers we can have. Now you might have noticed that I said master server is going to order a new game server to be created for the matched players. The question is, who is going to create and close the game servers? The master server itself doesn't create the game servers. Its job is to manage players, handle authentication, and run matchmaking. The actual job of creating and destroying game servers, handled by a separate and powerful system often called the game server orchestrator or session manager. It has a pool of powerful machines in a data center. These could be physical servers or more commonly today, virtual machines in cloud. The entire process is automated and happens in a matter of seconds. This is how games can scale to millions of players simultaneously, because for every new match, a new isolated server is created on demand and then destroyed when it's no longer needed. So there are a few services that offer game server orchestrator. For example, Google has a server called Kubernetes. Amazon has a service called Game Lift. Also, Unity Gaming Services has an option, I think it's called Multiply Hosting. So you could use these services. So it's not that hard actually to use these services. It's just about money. You know, they cost money, and simply by Googling it, you can find a lot of data and video about how to use them. So I'm gonna finish this video here. I hope that you find it useful. Please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.